On May 1st, 2016, there was a massive wildfire in Fort McMurray. While no one died in the fire itself, over 2,400 homes and businesses were destroyed. This devastation has made the Fort McMurray wildfire the costliest disaster in Canadian history. The devastation witnessed in Fort McMurray raises the obvious question: how do we prevent a disaster like this from happening again? Our group decided to investigate how we could help. We can't necessarily prevent wildfires from happening, as they are often the consequence of lightning strikes, dry seasons, and human negligence. However, we can attempt to reduce the amount of damage that is done to urban centers by quantifying why the fire halted in certain areas of the city and make suggestions for future developments with this quantification in mind. For the scope of our project, we looked at the urban layout of Fort McMurray to see how the city's layout contributed to or impeded the devastation the fire brought with it. To do this, we acquired, processed, and inspected remote sensing satellite imagery of Fort McMurray from before and after the fire. Maps were generated which highlighted the vegetation density, burn density, and the land use types for the region. These maps permitted for detailed visual inspection of the city's layout and identification of how the city's layout mitigated the spread of the fire in certain urban areas. The theory we generated is in regard to the spacing between structures in the city and the surrounding forestry. Time and time again, it became clear that close spatial distance between structures in the city and the surrounding burnt forest led to destruction. Alternatively, areas where the structures were protected from burning forestry by a sparsely vegetated buffer of 30 meters or more were spared from the blaze. To test the validity of our claim, we compared the 30-meter buffer theory to processed images from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Gatlinburg was struck by a wildfire similar to Fort McMurray's in November of 2016. Gatlinburg is similar to Fort McMurray in that both cities are urban centers completely enveloped in dense forest, and each city endured similar devastation, with Gatlinburg suffering approximately 2,500 structural losses and 13 deaths. We found the buffer theory from Fort McMurray held true in Gatlinburg, which validated the theory. From the buffer idea came a recommendation for urban planners to prevent future disasters from being so significant. We recommend urban planners consider instituting a 30-meter buffer between the woods and the community itself, such as a roadway or utility corridor, to prevent the fire from spreading so freely into the city. Our recommendation obviously does not account for every factor in a wildfire, but is important to consider nonetheless. Because if there's one thing the Fort McMurray fire has taught us, it's that any preemptive measure we can take to reduce the destruction caused by a fire is a good one. A very necessary one.
This family of 6 was left with little more than the clothes on their backs.
Literally, I'm crying because my city is burning.
Hopefully our project can help prevent this in the future.